Hey, so today I'm going to be reviewing the Skyrim Tarot Deck. Let's get into it. So first off, we have the box, and it comes in a really nice box with the string in it, so you can pull the cards out. And the explanation book, guidebook. It has the pictures of the cards with a brief description of the art. Sorry, this is hard to do one-handed. With both the upright and reverse meanings. Now let's get into the actual cards themselves. So the Fool is Cicero. I don't agree with this card. This card is Farengar. I believe they probably should have replaced this with Shallow-Deer. The High Priestess is supposed to be Saint Alessia, but she's not really mentioned much in Skyrim. I think there's only like references to her in books. I probably would have replaced her with either the goddess Mara or actually Urander, who was a priest of Mara, but also a former priest of Vermina, or Danica Purespring. The Empress is Jarl Elisif. The Emperor is High King Torig. Alternatively, they could have actually used the real Emperor of the Empire. I believe it's Titus Mede II in Skyrim. The Hierophant is supposed to represent, it's supposed to be Julianos. I think they should have went with the Greybeards for this, because they teach you the ways of the voice. The Lovers is supposed to be John Battleborn and Alfina Greymane. Alternatively, I would have probably used Gallus and Carlia. The Chariot is Arvak. I would have gone with Shadowmere. Strength is Ulfric. The Hermit is Parthenax, but I don't understand the art on this one. I don't understand why he's not actually on the Throat of the World or on the word wall like you see him in the game. Wheel of Fortune is Olava the Feeble. I don't agree with this one at all. I think this should be RK, who's the literal cycle of life and death. Justice is Talos. I think they should have went with the art of the statue seen in the games. The Hanged Man is Esbern. Alternatively, probably could have used Rogvir, the one who let Ulfric escape Solitude. Death is Sithis. That just makes sense. I don't agree with this card at all. This is Temperance, which is represented by Sotha Sil. To the best of my knowledge, he is not mentioned in Skyrim whatsoever, and you would have to have a greater knowledge of the Elder Scrolls series. I probably would have replaced him. With Carlia, actually, because of how long and how planned out Carlia's plan of vengeance was. Takes a lot of patience for that. So possibly either Mara or Carlia for this. The Devil's Malfala. The Tower Sheogorath. I don't agree with this one. Because he's the Daedric Prince of Madness. And the tower is supposed to be all about like your foundations crumbling so then you can rebuild stronger. But if you wanted to actually go with literal art, I would have replaced this with Alduin on the Tower of Helgen, like right at the beginning of the game. I feel like art-wise that would have made a lot of sense, but also because it literally was groundbreaking and everything was crumbling around you and you had to start over again. Literally a new life in Skyrim. So I think that symbolically would have been great for this card. The Star is Azura. The Moon is Nocturnal. The Sun is Merida. Judgment is Miol the Lioness. The World, self-explanatory. Now we're getting into the suits. So this suit is the suit of spells, and it's supposed to represent wands. It does have mostly mages from the College of Winterhold, except for one, but I'll go over that in a minute. I feel like this suit could have been done a lot better with, instead of choosing spells and like the imagery of the spells that they've chosen with the schools of magic, I would have alternatively gone with the staffs, the magic staffs, especially the destruction magic staffs, specifically like fireball or firebolt, because the suit of wands is about fire. Anyway, so this is Savos Aran, he's the king, Mirabelle's the queen. The Knight of Spells is actually Woundfirth, the Unliving, who's not in the college. He's actually in Windhelm. So I would have replaced him with Arniel Gain just to stick with consistency. Then Page is Tolfdir. I don't really like the art for any of the suits because they're just kind of numerical representations and get very generic. Now we're getting into lockpicks. This represents the suit of pentacles or coins. I personally would have recommended they gone with septums for this. So this is supposed to be Mercer. That is Vex, Brynjolf, and Sapphire. But then when you get into the actual suits, it's not represented by lockpicks at all. It's represented by these daggers and the Thieves Guild symbol, which doesn't make sense to me. And again, very basic numerical representations. If you were going to go with lockpicks, you should have had actual lockpicks on this. Again, I would have replaced this whole suit with septums. All right, now we're getting the suit of arms, which is swords. This is featuring the companions. So this is Codlac Whitemane as the king. The queen is Aela the Huntress. The knight, this one actually makes me really mad because of the next card. This is Skjor, but he dies early on and doesn't really hold much significance in the game as you play. And as page, they have Farkas. So I would have replaced Skjor with his brother Vilkas. Because, like, how can you have one of the twins and not the other? Like, so this should have been Vilkas 100%, and I'm so mad about it. And Farkas. Again, basic numerical representations. Now I hate this entire suit altogether. I would literally like toss this in the trash if I didn't need it. So this is supposed to be cups, which is represented by horns. The reason why this is so off-putting is because the cups is supposed to represent water or liquid, yet the voice is all air. So it's just, the elements are backwards. Because air is actually associated, to the swords and water to the cups. So, and these are all supposed to be people of the voice. And they're not the Greybeards either. Except for like these two. These two are Greybeards of some kind. I can look them up in the book, but I think one of them's Kine. I think she's Kine. Anyway, I hate this entire suit. I don't really want to, I'll go through it, but I hate this entire suit so much. I hate it. I would have replaced this suit with the Dark Brotherhood and potions, because potions are a liquid and would represent the element of water nicely. And I would have had it as Nazir as the king, Astrid as the queen, Festus as the knight, and Babette as the page. Now, I do like the size of the cards, and I really do like the artwork of the major arcana. I think it's beautiful. But I think the suits, specifically the numerical cards from 1 to 10, are just not very well thought out and just placed there. I've been a fan of Skyrim for a very long time, since it came out, really, and I've played it a ton. I may not be an expert on the lore, but I know a lot of it, and I don't agree with a lot of the choices that they made in regards to this deck. And I went through my alternatives for them. Because of that, I feel like a lot of the fan base would probably agree with me regarding some of the choices if they were also familiar with tarot. It would have been nice if I don't know if they consulted the fan base when making these. I don't know if the people who made these consulted the game developers or anything, or know any of the lore or stuff. But I feel like it could have been done a hell of a lot better if more thought was put into it, and definitely reached out to the fan base to get their genuine feedback on it. Because I think it could have been a lot better. I would give this deck a 5 out of 10 because of all of the things I really dislike about it or would change about it. The material wise, it's thin, but it's sturdy, but it's very it feels very flat and slippery, and the cards sometimes like to stick together when I'm shuffling, which can kind of be a pain in the butt when you're trying to do readings with it. Even though the guidebook does have upright and reversals, they're not very lengthy explanations. So I would definitely recommend you go to an outside app or Google, and Google up Biddy or Labyrinthos for the meanings, for the additional meanings that the cards can have. But again, I kind of have a love-hate relationship with this deck. There's certain aspects that I love, and then there's a lot I dislike. Again, 5 out of 10. I feel I'm mainly disappointed in this deck, and I do use it. But it's not my go-to deck, and it is reliable. It has been very reliable, but I'm not in love with it as much as I would like to be, because I feel like, as a fan of the game, if it had been made by fans, I feel like we would have made it and poured so much more enthusiasm into it. This is no hate to the creator of it or whoever designed it. Hold on. Yeah, I'm not entirely certain who. I mean, it does mention who the book was written by and who was illustrated by, but I don't know for certain if they're the ones who completely developed this tarot deck, so I can't say for certain. This is no hate to them at all, okay? Please don't take it that way. I just feel like, as a fan, if we had our input, or asked, or anything, consulted in any matter or any capacity, the fan base would have given you a whole bunch of ideas and critiques, especially those of us who do work with tarot cards. We could have had a lot of insight and helpfulness into making this deck if we had been consulted. I don't know if any fans were or not, so I can't say that. Okay, well, there's that. So that's my official review of the Skyrim Tarot Deck. 5 out of 10. A lot I would change, and this is all just opinion based. Everybody else can have their own thoughts and opinions on the deck too, which is entirely valid. Like, some people could absolutely be in love with it and love everything about it, and some may think the deck's, terrible, but everybody has different opinions, and that is entirely valid, okay? Take care.